Welcome back into another episode of George in the Jungle, presented as always by Remington Tavern. Remington Tavern can be found at 8892 Glendale Milford Road 45140, where they have their daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m. $5 bourbon whiskey Wednesdays, bottle cap bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Check them out on Instagram at RemyTav Cincy. That's REMITAV Cincy with a Y, or follow them on Facebook. And with that, George, you brought a friend today.
Yes.
We are in the midst of Bengals free agency, and there's really no one better to have on here to take us through what's been going on throughout free agency than Bengals.com's own Jeff Hobson. Thank you for joining the show, Jeff.
Great to be with you guys. Always great to be with the Hall of Famer George Vogel. That's a tremendous graphic, by the way.
Isn't that something? Yeah,
that's a great graphic.
Yeah.
We took that picture actually. That's George in his element.
Yeah. My wife wouldn't want me to dress that way in everyday life, I don't think. Actually, knowing her, she probably would force me to do that if she saw that graphic. I'm not going to show it to her. But Jeff, thanks for joining us. You're one of the all-time greats, highly respected veteran of journalism in Cincinnati, and certainly been with the Bengals for a while now, doing their website, Bengals.com, a highly successful website that I've even heard Mike Brown brag about how many views and everything. I think he was actually pleasantly surprised and tickled how well Bengals.com took off.
Yeah, I mean, I told him when I talked about taking the job, and it's thank you, Vogues, for that. It's going to be 25 years next month.
Wow.
And when Mike approached me about it, he didn't know what the internet was. I didn't know what the internet was. I said, Mike, maybe you better get somebody who's right out of college, who maybe knows a young person who knows, more about this stuff. And he goes, no, he said, I think the fans, want somebody they trust. And he says, really? He goes, I don't know how this stuff's going to end up. And I didn't either, but I thought it was exciting. And I knew that Mike would not throw me under the bus if it didn't work out, So I knew he's a very decent guy and a great guy to work for. I knew that before I went to work for him. But it did turn out that it was he was dead on. The thing took off.
And that's funny because he doesn't know much about the internet or all that, but he had the business sense to know that fans would glom on to somebody that they're already familiar with that is covering the team. So kudos to him for that.
Yeah, I mean, when you sit down and talk to the guy about things, he's really he's seen it all. I mean, here's a guy, he's in like his 8th or 9th decade of football. He's 89, and he's still, I was talking to him today. Talking about the latest moves and, still sharp, takes a walk every day. And he's got so much experience and he's seen so much that, he's just dead on a lot of this stuff.
Well, I've always told people that, there's this feeling people have about Mike Brown or, button down, doesn't say a lot, whatever. When you get him in an interview, number one, he's funny as all get out, and he will cut you like a knife if you leave him an opening. And you can't beat him on it. Like, you think you can corner him on something that the Bengals haven't done right, and he always seems to have a sound reason for why they went the route they went.
Yeah, he was always, back in the day, he was accessible as anybody, and he was every day, good, bad, or indifferent. He'd stand up there and he'd take the questions.
Well, one of the last times I talked to him on a practice field, he was bragging about Bengals.com and that the only sites that got more traffic were those X-rated sites, and he was laughing about it. I couldn't believe he said it, but he did. All right, so Mike's got his work cut out for him this offseason because, it's very interesting. We see what the 49ers are doing. A lot of teams have a lot going on. The Bengals, to me, I've been around a long time, and there seem to be about as many balls in the air without a coaching change that I think I've ever seen for an organization.
Yeah, and they did, and if you think about it, they had their first major change in a coordinator, really bringing in an outside guy. So they do have that going on too. Obviously, obviously the two big things are Jamar and T.
Right.
And it's and they usually in stuff like that, it's usually back ended. They usually get them done in August in training camp, and they weren't able to do that last year. So now it's in this neck of the woods, which kind of is kind of it's a part of free agency now, and I thought their first day on Monday, they accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. They went into this thing, obviously keeping their major people. They count Hendrickson in that. They count Hendrickson in that. That's still up in the air, with giving him permission to seek a trade. But he's still an option of coming back here. That's a very real option of him coming back. So Jamar, T, Trey, keeping your own. And they wanted to do that with other guys like Gesicki and BJ Hill and Joseph Osai, who was their next best sacker next to Hendrickson. They felt like they needed to get him back. And they got those three guys back. And if you want to count Samaje Perine as, he's been gone 2 years, but they got him back too. So, these are guys they so I think they thought it was a fruitful day, and now I think, they're in a bit of a pause because the things they need, guards, maybe another linebacker. I'm not sure they're infatuated with what's out there. So I think they're probably going to pause, take a look at this thing. And maybe they do, maybe tomorrow, the next day, maybe they do take a run at that guard when they take a look at the market again. But I think they felt like the first day was really good to get that under their belt, that they got all those guys on their own team back.
And there's so much angst over this Jamar Hendrickson thing. Do you expect anything on that front this week, soon? I don't know, because the market's kind of changed.
Yeah.
It just keeps changing, but they got to get this done.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know. I don't know, because there's really no, for T, there's a deadline, July 15th. There's really no deadline for Jamar. He's, but they want to get it done. I think they'd like to get it done so he gets into the spring camps. I would imagine, I would imagine they would like to get it done before then. But I don't think there's anything set in stone. But they want to get it done. They're working on it, and and it's not like this is the first time they've tried to get these guys. It's been a couple of years in the making. So, remember last August? Remember, it seemed like any day now it was going to happen, and with Jamar, and it never did. But I think, I saw what Ian Rappaport is pretty tied into the league. He's saying he expects them to get both of them. It's just not sure when. I'm putting the, when I think they report to, I think their voluntary workouts. I think they begin the end of April, maybe the week before the draft, maybe somewhere third week in April somewhere. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe something by then. Who knows? I don't know. But I think, they've been working on this for a couple of years, and they're still working.
Well, these guys are going to be under contract, and they are under contract. You got the tag on T, and then the other two still with a year left. But do you see? Are we looking at potential holdouts if it comes to that?
It's kind of early for that. It's a little too early for that. I think.
Well, I'm a worrywart.
Yeah, I know. We all are. I don't know. It's kind of. I hate to sound like this, but it's like when the Red Sox signed Bregman, and there was this, what's going to happen? Is Bregman going to play second? Is Raffy going to be mad because he can't play third? And hey, that will work itself out, and this will work itself out too. I don't know how or when, but I know it will work out. And I don't think anybody wants to go through what they did last year in camp. I think they want to have a good peaceful camp. And so, I don't think, it's real early really, for that. So it sounds like people in the industry think it's going to get done. And, I think we just don't know when.
You bring in a run stopper like a TJ Slayton on this defensive line. You bring back Joseph Osai. Maybe you bring back Trey Hendrickson. That's still we'll see what happens with any and all of that. Do you think there's still moves to be made as far as edge goes with this defensive line?
It's a good question because I think, Aaron, the acquisition, of Al Golden, and I think of Jerry Montgomery as a defensive line coach, I think they feel like, that's a big part of this makeover. It's going to be a different defense. And I think they feel like those guys can revive Miles Murphy and Joseph Osai, which they have to. I mean, these two young edge guys, Sam Hubbard's retired. So they've got to they need something from these guys, and I think Osai, and I didn't really know this until, I did know it, but I didn't think about it again until I, was looking at it last night. He was productive in the last part of the year, when he started to play. I'm not sure he's played enough. That was, if he plays, he produces, and so I think they feel like they got a guy like Montgomery who coached Slayton in Green Bay. He's got a reputation for developing young players. He developed Slayton. Slayton's a 5th rounder out of Florida in 2021, and he's been a pretty good player for Green Bay. I think ESPN had him as the top run stopper as far as percentage last year, and so he's been a very productive player. Jerry developed him, so I think that they feel like he's got a knack for doing that. And Murphy and Osai, they're going to get something out of these guys. So do they make another move on the edge? Yeah, I Cedric Johnson, I think, is a guy that they're banking on. He was a 6th round pick out of Ole Miss. He didn't play that much until late, and he looked really good. He looked really good in the stretches that he played. So I feel like they feel like they have young enough talent. And I know, could they bring in a veteran, a guy who's solid and has a history of getting close to double-digit sacks? I just don't think they feel like that they can afford that. That's the thing. They're putting their money in Hendrickson, and that's the thing about when you're young on defense, you better get coaches that can develop them, and I think that was a big theme in the offseason. I think that's why they went out and they made the change with Al, bringing in Al Golden from Notre Dame, and hiring guys like Mike Hodges and Jerry Montgomery, who have been in the league, have not only been in the league a long time as position coaches, they've been in the same place. Mike Hodges was the linebackers coach, was in New Orleans for, I think, 8 years. Sean Payton hired him, and Sean Payton's got a good rep for knowing good coaches. And Jerry Montgomery was with Green Bay for 8 years, was in New England last year. And, both these guys survived different head coaches, different coordinators. So, I think the thinking is, let's get – I think they drafted very well in 22, 23, and 24, but they want to get something out of these young players.
You also bring in a guy like –
Go ahead, Aaron.
You also bring in a guy like Oren Burks at linebacker, replacing what could be Jermaine Pratt. Should we expect to see Pratt back in the fold, or is this? Well,
it's a good question. I mean, it's a good question. He's asked for a trade too, I think, but I think Burks is a good get, but I think he's probably more of a backup type guy. Probably more like a Davis Gaither type of guy who's signed in Arizona. Brooks is an intriguing guy to me. He's been in the, he's played 108 games in the league. He's only made 17 stats, so he's kind of he's got this rep as being a special teamer, as a guy who can come in and play. It's kind of funny. The sixth most, the 6 games where he's played the most snaps from scrimmage, 4 have been in the playoffs, and 2 have been in the last 2 Super Bowls. He played every snap. He played virtually every snap for Philly in this last Super Bowl because Nakobe Dean was hurt. But I think they see him as a guy, probably more of as a third, fourth kind of guy who's going to help them out on teams. They're going to need a guy like that with Davis Gaither, now in Arizona. So what happens to that other linebacker spot, I think, will be interesting. I think Burks is only the first in a probably series of moves coming. Duke Tobin said at the combine, last month we're really going to look at that linebacker room, and they haven't drafted a linebacker since 2020. They haven't, so probably about time for them to draft 1, maybe 2, because remember in 2020 they drafted 3 pretty good ones. Logan Wilson, I think he's still he's got the most interceptions by a linebacker in the decade. Been a very solid player, obviously. And then Davis Gaither gave him 5 good years. He plugged in for Wilson this last year with 7 starts. And Marcus Bailey played for a couple years as a good special teamer. But they haven't drafted anybody since 2020. So at linebacker. So Duke Tobin gave some pretty good hints. I think that they're probably definitely going to get one.
Moving to the defensive backfield, and a guy who grew on everybody was Mike Hilton, because he just seemed to do a little bit of everything for him, and certainly came up big in big situations. They've got some potential gaps there as well. How big of a concern is that?
I think the cornerback room is the strongest room on defense. Even if Mike doesn't come back, and I love Mike Hilton. My favorite Mike Hilton stat is he led the team playing in the most AFC North games, I think, with like 43, because he came from Pittsburgh. Yep. Such a great leader, Yeah. But even if he doesn't come back, I mean, they've worked their ass off building up this room, I think, in the draft. And I think they've got 4, 5, 6 very good young players. I mean, I think Taylor Britt, everybody's kind of concerned about him. He was benched twice last year, but I think he got out of that funk in the last month. I think when they simplified the defense, I think he played better. I think this is another example where Al Golden has come in, and one of the things he's got to do is make Cam Taylor Britt play better. Yeah. So I think they feel like that's going to happen. And then I know I'm talking to, some people think Dax Hill, after Trey Hendrickson, he's the second best player on that defense. He can play any position back there, and he was their best corner before he got hurt. So, we'll see how he comes back from the knee, but very strong player. And I think, DJ Turner was playing very good when he went down with a season-ending injury. And I thought Josh Newton, he had his rookies ups and downs, but he played well. He made some plays in that 5-game winning streak.
Really well in the preseason, and I also thought down the stretch he started playing better again. Maybe more consistent.
And I think, a guy and I think I'm going to write about this guy tomorrow, Marco Wilson. I know probably people are thinking, wanted him to do more today than re-sign Marco Wilson, but Marco Wilson's a guy, he's a guy that you can, you don't notice when they sign him, but you notice him in December when he's covering Calvin Ridley on a 3rd down situation because he can run, or he's covering Jerry Jeudy because he can run in a 3rd down situation in December. And he did well in those situations. He can run. So I think, George, long story short, I think they're very good at corner, even if they don't get back Mike. I think they're set there. I think they get some good young players.
And at the safety position, we're good with what they have, or do you think they'll look for an upgrade there?
Yeah, I think you're looking at a potential upgrade there. I do think they like Jordan Battle. I think he's another young guy they want to play. You know what I mean? He got benched twice his first 2 years. and he came back. He came back each time, played well. I think they'd like to see what he can do as as the starter. But I think they're always looking to. I think they're always. I think they'll be looking to upgrade there. I mean, I think they're. I think Geno Stone is another guy that they think in an Al Golden defense. Can get see maybe use him a little bit better than they did last year. I mean, here's a guy led the AFC in interceptions 2 years ago with Baltimore. Came here and he kind of had a little bit of struggle getting it. When he made the transition here, he got better as he got better as the year went. It seemed and he played much better in that 5-game winning streak. So I think they take they take a look at him, but obviously it's a pretty good safety draft, I think, too.
Yeah, I wouldn't be terribly upset if Al Golden brought that safety from Notre Dame with him.
Right. Xavier Watts, right? Xavier Watts. That's the
one.
That's a name that's been bandied about.
Yeah,
although
wouldn't be terribly upset.
Second round's kind of high. That's high rent district, right, for a safety.
Depends on what he's giving you, I guess.
For most people, but God, if you got the need and you got a guy you think might start for you for 8-10 years,
right?
Why not?
Right.
What do you think they do in the first round? Because it could go. Every time I think I know what they're going to do, I don't.
Yeah. Well, it's like Aaron asked about edge. That's obviously an obvious choice in that first round. Although college edgers scare me. It seems like a crapshoot with those guys. Either they're too small, or they're too big, or they're not physical enough, or they haven't played the position enough, or they've got great measurements but they can't play football, or I don't know. It's just it always seems kind of a gamble for me with those guys. But there's a lot of good ones out there in the first 2 rounds. So if you're talking about an edger, that's a shot. That's a shot where they could get him. I mean, to me, I thought the biggest thing they need, besides getting a young edge, the biggest thing they need was what they got yesterday, which was a big run stopper on first and second down. I mean, that's you have to have that in this division.
Yeah, and that was a position I thought they might, and maybe they will still look at. I don't know.
Right, they could. Yeah, right. I mean, they could.
Because you never have enough of those guys, and a lot of times fans don't really think about that a whole lot because those are the guys in there keeping everybody else busy, and creating gaps for other guys to make the tackles.
No, that's right. I mean, if you think your linebackers aren't playing that good, well, maybe there's something up front too.
Right.
And I think McKinley Jackson, I think they think is a guy that can play. He can play, nose in a pinch. He can play nose in a pinch as well, and he can play the 3 technique a little bit too. So, and Chris Jenkins had a pretty good rookie year, the rookie 3 technique. So you throw B.J. Hill in there, with the kid from Green Bay, you got Jenkins and Jackson. You begin to, you're different in the interior.
On the other side of those trenches, guard is a giant question mark. You cut Alex Kappa, you bring back Cody Ford, you still got Cordell Volson in the mix, you bring in a new offensive line coach, and I still have no idea how much at all the Bengals even value that position.
That's a good question. I mean, I think they're looking to upgrade there, obviously, and I don't know. I think they're going to give Cody Ford a shot to start, but I think he's probably most valuable at what he's doing, which is that he can back up any spot you need, which is really valuable. I mean, think about where they would have been last year. They didn't have him, So I thought that was a real good get, and I forget to mention him on the guys that they wanted to get back. He was right there with Gesicki and B.J. Hill about guys they wanted back. But again, at guard, what are you going to do? Remember, he played left guard because Volson got benched in December.
Right.
So Cap is not there anymore. So, clearly, I mean, I think we're probably, that's clearly you'd have to look at the draft, obviously, for one of those spots. and we'll see we'll see what they can pick off in free agency. But like I said, I'm not sure that they're infatuated with what they got there. It's a pretty old. There was a lot of guys who were kind of on the kind of long in the tooth, and there were some other younger guys I think that were a little bit banged up. So I'm not sure that was the kind of a crop they were looking at. Now that's still, there's still plenty of time to look at it and get something. They know they have to upgrade there. I think the draft is the obvious. I think is the obvious place to look at, and maybe you look on your own roster too. Maybe you look at some of these younger guys too. But if you want to upgrade, I think you have to. I still think some wheels are probably in motion there.
All right, Jeff. We said a half hour. We just about made.
All right, give me. Give me 8 more minutes. I feel like I didn't give you enough.
Oh, well, okay.
I'll go to special teams. We haven't discussed anything on special teams. You bring
I
back
love special teams.
You bring back your long snapper. You bring back your punter. Excellent. Yeah. Check. Love that. What kicker? I think has become a question mark. I know that.
You don't. Take it easy. No, take it easy. Yeah, he's all right.
I was going to say no too.
Well, I know there was some injury, but do you bring in a guy just to compete?
I mean, I don't think you have to. I think with I think you have to look at a little bit at the operation. Darren Simmons talked about this at the combine last month. He wants the operation to get better. I think that's probably the number one thing that has probably maybe impacted McPherson a little bit. 4 different holders. And then they had the, obviously Cal's going into his 3rd year. So I think, and he's told, Darren wants that operation better. He wants better steps. He wants better holds. So I think, and I think he believes that comes with task on time, because I think Rico is a good holder. I mean, I think, but it's just they haven't had the task on time that say Clark Harris and Kevin Huber were. I mean, Clark Harris. I mean, Darren said this at the combine. He could have showed up there after not doing anything for 3 years and been perfect snapping. It's just a guy like that's just rare.
Got spoiled.
But he also did it for so long. Yeah, I mean, it's you get spoiled. You don't know what you got till it's gone. Right. So, and George, you go back. I go back to this. I mean, you remember this? The late '90s. Doug Pelfrey had that problem when Greg Truitt, the great long snapper, hurt his ACL, and they went through about 4 punters in 2 years with different holders, and Pelfrey went from being like one of the most accurate kickers to one of the least accurate, and then he was gone.
Right.
And probably because of the operation. Definitely because of the operation. So, I think it's I think it's they just want to get yes, McPherson has to get better, but I think they feel like, more task on time with these 3 guys, that it's just going to naturally, that it will naturally improve. Because I really think, Rico proved he's a hell of a punter, or can be a hell of a punter. And, McPherson's, to me, proven. So, try and make it work.
I got to tell you, with Rico, like, just on the punting end of things, it was almost shocking when, okay, you see teams, and the Bengals did this, spent like a 5th-round draft pick on a punter or whatever it was the year before. And then this dude's just hanging out there. How the hell does that happen in this day and age with, there's cameras everywhere, the combine, everybody knows everything about everybody, and yet you still get stories like this every season.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. I mean, kudos to, Darren for doing the work on him, and for the scouts,
and then have to pull the plug on a draft pick and say, look, we got to go with,
Yeah, right. I mean, no, it's a, they didn't bat an eye, and Brad Robbins is going to be a good punter in this league whenever he gets another shot. I think he'll be fine. I mean, man, talk about debuts. 10 punts in the rain in Cleveland in 2023. Welcome to the league. You know, I mean, yes, you know, and then Rico's debut, he breaks, you know, he shatters NFL records.
I know.
You know, but yeah, no, I think Darren does a great
thing about that game.
What's that?
That was the only good thing about that game.
No, that's right. No, that's right. Well, I mean, it's and that's the other thing, and that's going to be another theme that's going to start up here pretty soon. Is once they start on getting on the field, is you got to get out of the gate, man.
It's maddening.
Yeah.
You know, and Aaron and I had talked about this before that you know, Patriots loss was rated the worst regular season loss in the NFL last season.
Yeah.
And it felt that way. Everybody knew it. They had no business losing to that team. And then you see, you know, what it means when everything's said and done. And golly, you talk about costly. They've got to look at that. I know they've talked about it, and we're so far out from camp, but I hope they figure that part of the equation out.
You know, and I don't know if there's an answer because, okay, if you want to play them a little bit more and you want to get them ready, don't get pissed if somebody gets hurt.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, so you got to walk a fine line. I think Zach does he gets him to the gate. There's no question. You know what I mean? And that's half the battle is getting him to the gate. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, he does a great job with Joey Bose, his strength and conditioning guy, and everything they got. And you know, Vogues, you were just talking about, you know, in this day and age, they got these guys wired up like they're the bionic men. You know, it's like Lee Majors. You know, I mean, they got, you know what I mean? They got their.
That's an old school reference.
Yeah, sorry about that, Aaron. That's well, I hate to say it, Aaron, but Google it. All right, that's the old line you have to tell somebody. But I don't know, that might be too old for Google.
That's true. It might be.
Yeah, you know, but I mean, honestly, I think if they put me on one of these things, you know, I'd hate to see it just be kind of a flat line.
Yeah, I would be up at Christ Hospital in about 10 minutes, probably.
I mean, these miles per hour. I mean, they track these guys. You know what they run at practice and their you know, and their respiration and how they're doing and their load and their workload. I mean, they've got this thing down pat. I mean, I think I had myself down. I'd probably go Chase Brown was 22 miles per hour at the ultimate. I'm probably a 7.5 miles per hour, maybe.
That would be my speed. And you look, you know, we started off with this about the internet and all that and that change. Yeah. Since you started, boy, this is an old man question, Aaron. I'm sorry about this.
It's all right.
Do you ever sit there and it boggles your mind how much technology has changed everything?
Every day. Every day when I mean, just think of it when you the thing that boggles my mind is the analytics.
Yes.
Because I'll tell you, these guys and the reporters today, they do a great job with that stuff and the charts and everything, and they do a great job. And I gotta tell you, that's not my strength.
Right.
Because I start looking at that stuff and my eyes, you know, like some of the stories on Slayton were really good, but my eyes started to glaze over with win rates on stops and stop percentage, and that stuff's really good. It's just I'm not a math guy, and you
remember how mad Marvin used to get about those PFF questions?
Yeah,
Pro Football Focus,
RAS scores, and
no, but it's all legitimate. I mean, you know, it's all legitimate. It just amazes me. It makes me, you know, it makes me think I suck. But I mean, it's just, you know, I probably should have, you know, I majored in, well, because Vogues, they always taught us to make, you know, major in journalism, but have something else maybe, right?
Right.
You know, so I did English when I probably should have done, you know, analytics or something.
Yeah, computer programming or something like that. Handle all this stuff because it's amazing. And Yeah, I consume that stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't know that I retain it very well.
Yeah. My son was 13 when I took the job, and he's now a computer software engineer. I mean, he went to, salutatorian, a 1%er, or he went to Cornell to get his master's. So this guy, right? So he was smarter than me when he was born. So right. So he's helping me when I was on the I'd be on the bus on that first year, and there wasn't any hot spots or anything, or I was calling in my quotes to him,
Right.
and he could log into the site, and he was doing and he was, logging it in. And I remember Kenny Anderson as the quarterback, and he'd be yelling in a, Kevin, don't do it. Make him pay you. Make him pay you.
That's funny. Yeah, Kenny would do that. And then he probably pulled another beer out of that briefcase.
Don't know. I was trying to get Kevin to spell first down, I think. Or he was telling me how to spell it.
Oh, man. Well, Jeff, I appreciate it.
Well, listen, thanks for having me on, guys. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we just have a conversation and shoot the breeze and try to keep it, we don't want to get too deep in anything and start burying people. Life's hard enough.
Yeah. It was great being on with you guys, and Vogues, I'll get you. And Aaron, if you play golf, you're invited as well.
All right.
I'll get you all the specifics.
I'll fill him in. Yeah, let me know, Jeff. And hopefully Dan Hort will be there, because he and I have been trying to golf for like 2 or 3 years, and it's just never.
Yeah. Horty's a great. I mean, Horty hits it, man.
Yeah,
I don't go that far. I don't go that far on vacation.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I remember. I was all jealous of him one time we golfed, and he shows up with this brand new pair of Under Armour shoes, and it was when UC was still with Under Armour. He's like, "Yeah, we were down at it was some media function or something, and media day, and they had this golf tournament, and the Under Armour guy was with them." And then made sure Dan had a brand new pair of Jordan Spieth Under Armour golf shoes the next day. He said, I got back to the hotel and there's a box sitting outside my door, and these brand new golf shoes were in there. So that's pretty cool.
That is pretty good. Yeah. Well, he can wear them.
Yeah. I got to find clubs that go straight, but that's for another night.
Yeah. Fellas, thanks again.
All right, Jeff. Thanks a lot, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good one.
The legendary Jeff Hobson.
Thanks, folks.
All right, brother.
There we go.
Boy, that man can write a story now. I'll tell you that. Like, he talks about the analytics and all that, and maybe not being his thing, but writing the human interest and bringing out like some personality in these players and everything. It makes him a must read.
Yeah, I don't remember life before Jeff Hobson as far as being a Bengals fan.
Don't. Yeah, you probably don't. I barely do, but I think I'm a few years older than him. But I was, I remember when he came to town, and yeah, it was a whole different animal, the media back then. But it's been fun to watch all these careers and go as well as they have with guys that I worked with or worked around in the late 80s, early 90s.
And he wrote for both the Post and the Enquirer, I believe, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So,
and then Mike Brown team up.
Good on him. We definitely appreciate him joining us. That was a lot of fun. Especially anytime you can get a good Boston accent in here.
Jamal.
Great.
So, real quick, I should have brought this up. He's not going to mind me saying this. I think I told you this once. I'm not sure. When they drafted Giovanni Bernard, and Gruden was the offensive coordinator, so he's doing the news conference on them drafting this running back, and it was draft night, and so Jeff asked him something about, and Gruden was there at the end of the night. I think we were talking about all the different offensive picks there, and he's like, "What about Bernard? What do you like about Bernard?" And Gruden's like, "Excuse me." He goes, "Bernard, And then you could see, and Gruden's looking around, and then Dan Horton's in the front row, and he goes, Giovanni Bernard. Oh, Bernard, yeah, oh, okay. You know, and Gruden was new to town, right? Jay Gruden. He was new to town as the offensive coordinator and had not caught on to the Boston accent. And boy, he caught on real quick after that.
That's fantastic.
It was a true story.
Well,
I was going to say his accent tripped up an offensive lineman a couple years ago too, who was drafted, and he asked him if they could play Gad. The poor kid's like, and someone had to explain he means guard. Oh God, he's a treasure, an absolute treasure.
Well, again, just to kind of recap, the Bengals free agency, they re-signed Mike Gesicki at tight end. They re-signed Joseph Osai at edge. They re-signed B.J. Hill at defensive tackle. They re-signed Cody Ford at offensive line. They signed T.J. Slayton at nose tackle. They re-signed, bring back Samaje Perine from several years ago at running back. And you bring in a linebacker, Oren Burks. I'm also missing the corner that they brought back, Marco Wilson. They brought him back today, but they let Akeem Davis-Gaither walk, $11 million to the Cardinals for 2 years, I believe. Alex Kappa, of course, had been cut and goes to the Raiders, and Sheldon Rankins goes back to Houston after his bout with meningitis here as a Bengal. What holes do you still feel that they need to, that maybe we didn't cover?
Well, linebacker for sure, which we covered. And I hope the Bengals coaching staff is right about those young defensive linemen, the interior guys, and that they don't have to draft high there. And, bringing back B.J. Hill was huge. I was definitely worried about that. Hopefully these two young guys that they can plug in there are develop as well as they think. They will. In the same way with the corners. I mean, he's big on the corners. I am if they continue to develop. So we'll see. And then, he thought they were okay at safety. I hope he's right. I just worry about guys getting up there in years, and, Jordan Battle is around, and maybe he will be able to help plug in there. And then, as he said, Dax Hill can kind of swing around wherever, but I think they're probably in position where they're going to have to play him at corner.
Yeah, probably.
Right.
And kind of to his point, Dax Hill was probably the best corner that we had on the roster before he goes down with an injury. And we know that Hill can play slot, he can play outside. So we'll see what ends up happening with Dax Hill in that regard.
But you look at linebackers and guards, and then edge obviously is probably number one, depending on what happens here. And they got some time. I mean, they got, not a lot of time, but a month and a half before, you're serious about the draft. But there's several ways they can go, but and they're not the only team. There's a lot of teams looking to fill gaps. I mean, look what the Eagles have lost. They're coming off the Super Bowl, and they've lost like 6 guys off their defense or something. So it's crazy.
Houston's traded half of their offensive line at this point to fill up other holes on the roster. So I don't understand anything.
Yeah, the Niners are running into some money issues as far as cap issues where, because they're going to have to re-sign their quarterback, and they're like, we got to do something here. And so now, that kind of, I guess, explains to a degree that Deebo Samuel deal.
Pittsburgh's collecting receivers like Pokemon, and they still don't have a quarterback. So this league's crazy. Cleveland picked up. I don't know what Cleveland's doing. I don't know what they're doing.
I don't either. I don't. And I guess is Aaron Rodgers still in play for the Steelers? Is that legit?
He's not signed anywhere, but who knows what that dude's doing? He could retire. I don't know. He's one ayahuasca trip away from a cartoon character telling him what to do. So I don't know.
Yeah, you can't read his mind.
Nope.
There's no way.
Wild card.
Total wild card.
So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. We're one day away from whatever happens tomorrow. It's been a roller coaster thus far across the division, across the NFL. Joey Bosa just signed with Buffalo.
Oh, are you serious? Wow.
Yep, 12.6 for 1 year. He signs with Buffalo. So again, I don't know what anybody's doing anymore. So
nope.
Make it make sense, George. Make it make sense.
Well, we're going to try to by the second week of September.
Speaking of things that don't make sense, let's switch gears. Cincinnati plays Oklahoma State for the second game in a row and beat the brakes off of them today, 87-68. This, of course, coming after losing to them on Saturday. I don't know who this team was that I saw today. You score 87 points while Simas Lukosius scores 2 points only on free throws that came on a technical foul when ex-Xavier Musketeer Usman gets tossed from the game. So I don't know.
Think about the game he had Saturday, and then look at what happened today. Obviously, he got in foul trouble, and then I honestly, I thought, it was a precarious point in the game when he got his third foul, and it's like you probably better get him out of there. Plus the way just things, something wasn't right with that dude today. I felt like he was, and the announcers were talking about that. And it's like you're risking leaving him in there, and the way it's been going for him, he could be gone pretty quickly. And then he turns around and gets a foul and a technical, and boom, that was it. Yeah, it was a crazy game. Obviously Simas was nowhere to be found today, basically, when it came to, he missed that bunny, then turns right around and chucks a three that he misses, and he just didn't have it today. And quite honestly, I told somebody watching it, I'd rather him play with just 4 guys if he's going to be out there doing that. Just go with 4. I was a little agitated, and then Jizzle wasn't really at his best, and then you look at the amount of total turnovers, but Oklahoma State was worse. I don't know. I can't. I don't know. I do like this. Dylan Mitchell and the way he played, as active as he was, he did have a boatload of turnovers. But the things he did today, and a lot of it is who you're going against and what they offer up. But he was doing things I haven't seen him do a lot of this year. And he was very patient with the ball. When he got the ball out top high, he was very patient and waiting. And guys were cutting and making nice cuts to the basket in the lane. And one time he's waiting for someone to cut. He's got the ball. He takes a couple dribbles. He's still waiting, doesn't get rid of it. Sees he's got an advantage and takes his guy to the hole, gets a foul, and makes the bucket. And then the next time down, he's kind of doing the same thing, but it's more on the right side of the lane. And then sees Day cut in, hits him with a nice bounce pass for a point blank, wide open 8-footer in the lane that he drained. It's like, this is what I would love to see every game out of him. The way he was, he was more the facilitator today than what they maybe try to have Aziz do all the time. And it seemed like it worked very well against what Oklahoma State was doing.
Yeah, Chad and I talked about it on the aftermath today. To go 18, 15, and 5 for Dylan, he was not afraid to take that first step when it was there, and he forced defenders to have to play up on him because he was taking that first step. So he was initiating contact, and when it was there, he took it. When it wasn't there, to your point, he was passing it, and he might be the best passer on the team that is not a point guard. And he showed you why he was a McDonald's All-American. People have talked about all season long. It feels like, how the hell was this guy a McDonald's All-American? He's not doing anything shiny, fun outside of dunking. What more can this guy do? And I think you saw it today in spades.
Yeah.
At every level. It wasn't just, he had a 3 today. He did everything you needed him to do. I wish we would have seen this Dylan Mitchell 6, 7, 8 more times throughout the course of the season. And because his level was at where it was, I think you saw the people who were on the court around him be able to do more as well. Day with 21, Josh Reed had a great game as well. Dan kind of, I don't know if he saw what Dylan was doing and stepped his game up or whatever the case was, but Dan himself had a great game, and it's been a long time since we've been able to say that. He had no turnovers today, Dan Skillings. He had 8 rebounds today, Dan Skillings.
Yeah.
He had 3 steals and a block, Dan Skillings, and you saw Dylan doing a lot of those same things. Yes, he had the 6 turnovers, but those were kind of if you're going to get turnovers, they weren't like, oh, I dribbled the ball off my foot or I threw a lazy pass. A lot of it was trying to make something else happen.
Right.
And I think you can live with that as opposed to just the errant passes or the blunders.
I would agree. And yes, Dan was outstanding. Josh Reed was really, 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 really good. And in the first half, he was a total godsend in that half. And he's been doing more and more. And it's almost like he's busting out of this shell and showing what else he can do. Because quite honestly, Aaron, he's showing me things I didn't think he was capable of. Because he's never really shown it in these games. And being able to drive and make moves and spin and throw it. And in that late shot that he hit off the glass after he made that move. And I'm like, oh, God, he just threw this one up there. No, he banked it in, and it looked really sweet after he did it. It was a great – I mean, do I want him taking that shot every time? No, but in that situation, and, you got shot clock to consider and everything, and it worked. And he's blossoming before our eyes. And hopefully, they may be running out of time here. They could be done in 24 hours. We'll see. I give them a chance tomorrow because I saw that game at Iowa State. I saw what happened in the second half, and that was a weird game when it came to foul calls and everything. It was just weird. And I can't remember. I think they lost by 11. But nothing went their way in that second half at Iowa State. Nothing. No calls, no bounty, nothing. So we'll see if they can hang in there. If they play the way they did today, I don't doubt what they can do. I think they've got a chance to pull it off.
This is a team that could have mailed it in today. They just lost to this same Oklahoma State team again 3 days ago. You could have mailed it in. You could have given up. West rallied them and got them to play at as high a level that I can remember them playing this season. It was reminiscent of some of the non-conference games that weren't Xavier or Dayton or Villanova. So I don't know. I was encouraged by what I saw today, and I think that gives reason to watch tomorrow to see that if TJ Otzelberger doesn't have a 3-minute conversation with the head referee at halftime, then maybe things go differently. Also, I think West should probably be granted 3 minutes at halftime to talk with the head referee tomorrow. Just saying. But I don't know. We'll see what happens tomorrow. And I'm encouraged by what I saw today. Looking forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, and Jizzle played well against Iowa State. He played pretty well in that game out there. Hopefully he bounces back when it comes to shooting tomorrow. We'll see. Hopefully CMOS does the same, because if you would have put their lines in front of me before that game, I'd said this ain't happening. They're losing Oklahoma State again, and instead they win by Christ. How many did they end up winning by?
19.
I mean, they were 19, 18, whatever, 19. I mean,
19.
Quite a turnaround from what we saw Saturday.
Yeah. So we'll see how that all shakes out as they tip off again at 12:30 tomorrow against Iowa State, and what is honestly probably a home game for Iowa State.
Yeah, it will be. It'll be pretty loud for them, I would imagine. We'll see. I love conference tournaments. Everybody does. I wish I could have gone to this one. I think if the season had gone better, I'd probably make more of an effort to see if I could go. And probably like everybody else, I got a little disgusted down the stretch with this team.
Things that maybe we're not so disgusted with. Cincinnati baseball. The Bearcats baseball. Those red jerseys, by the way, are beautiful. With just very simple, with just the C-paw here and the number here in the abdomen area. Those are beautiful jerseys. But your Bearcats tonight played Miami for their 6th straight win on this homestand. Miami's uniforms, by the way, they were wearing 2 different color grays. I don't know if you saw that. The jerseys were a different color gray from the pants. They looked terrible.
Good look.
Miami looked terrible as they lose.
What was the final in that game? The last I saw was like
12-3.
12-3.
12-3. There was a grand slam in this one.
All around pretty good.
Yeah, Bishop Ball is upon us. They took a little on that road trip. San Diego State, right?
Yeah, there was San Diego, UC San Diego.
There it is.
University of California, San Diego.
Didn't go so well there.
What they do? Lose 3 out of 4 there. They should have won 2.
They did.
They had one game. It was at the first game. I think they lost in a walk-off. And that was a game they had a 2 or 3 run lead late. That one hurt. I think I'm thinking of the right game. But things didn't go so well, but they got back, they regrouped. Still looking like maybe some good things will happen for them this season.
Yeah, getting back on track. So not ranked currently, but we'll see what they're able to do when they're able to continue stringing some of these wins together, because 6-0 is pretty sweet on this homestand. That said, moving right along to Cincinnati Reds baseball, and you have spring training underway still. There's not a ton going on as far as injuries, which is a good thing. You did see Cam Collier. He's got a UCL injury. He's going to be out for some time. I think 4 to 6 weeks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
UCL in his thumb. Not a great place to have an injury for a baseball player. But outside of that, there's not really been much on that front. So I know me in particular, I love to beat up on this medical staff. Thankfully, they haven't had to work too much.
No, I don't know what's and nobody has said anything that there's anything sinister or whatever. But Lodolo missing that start, and I guess they said he threw on a backfield and got his work in, throwing 63 pitches, and then it feels like it got kind of pushed back because he was starting after Green, and now he's going to make his next start Thursday. And they haven't said there has not been one word of any issue or anything. And maybe it's nothing. I don't know what's going on, but he's supposed to be back on the mound Thursday. And that one kind of, I was just curious because I saw he was slated to start the one game, and maybe they got rained out. That there was a game they got rained out, believe it or not. And maybe that's when he went back and threw, but I don't know how his days got off, but they haven't said anything. So you're still looking at Steer, Abbott, and Rhett Lauder as the 3 main, guys you worry about injuries right now. Steer got an injection. They say he's had great improvement. They hope to see, more out of him later this week. Abbott's supposed to throw tomorrow. I think he's pitching like a AAA game. And then, because I think they're going to try to get him out there on the major league mound, but he's going to throw a AAA game tomorrow. Then they'll see where he's at. Hopefully no setbacks there. And Lauder is still wait and see. I don't think he'll be ready, obviously, for the opening day roster, but that's what they're dealing with injuries out there. And then I was curious about how this would play out, and it didn't play out very long. Marte sent to the minor league camp.
He was,
which tells you that the new manager is not screwing around with anybody.
I'm not shocked by that. I think that's probably where. I think it's probably where he needed to be, especially when you look at who's still here. So I have in front of me the 19 players for 13 spots. I think you can probably subtract 2 of those spots of the 13 and subtract 4 of those players as their catchers. I can't see this rostering 3 catchers going into opening day. I think if they do that again, I'm going to want to throw up.
Yeah, I don't see any. No, there's no reason to.
Agreed. Ever.
Right.
Ever. That said, so essentially what you have is 15 players for 11 spots in Candelario, CES, McLean, Ellie De La Cruz, Espinal, Lux, and then outfielders, you've got Hayes, Friedel, Fraley, Steer, Fairchild, Benson, Dunn, Hurtubise, and Bowman. I don't know how you see this all shaking out. I know how I would like it to shake out, but I'm curious to get your thoughts in the way that goes down to you.
Well, I think the guys you mentioned first, go down the list, and I can tell you. And how many spots are we looking at? 13?
We're looking at 11.
11. Okay. How many players are on your list now? 15?
You got 15, so you got to cut 4. So you got Candelario, Christian Encarnacion Strand, McLean, Ellie De La Cruz, Espinal, and Gavin Lux.
I think they're in.
I think all of them are in.
Yep.
I'm with you.
And
So
then, okay.
And then you've got Austin Hayes, TJ Friedel, Jake Fraley, Spencer Steer, Stuart Fairchild, Will Benson. The first names for these guys evade me, but Dunn, Hurtubise, and Bowman. I know Dunn's had a pretty good spring. I know Hurtubise has had a pretty good spring.
Yeah, he's been on fire.
Hurtubise is batting over 500.
So you got, honest to God, so you're looking at what do we have? 6, 4. So we're looking at all these because it's going to be probably done.
Hayes, Friedel, Fraley, and Steer are locks, right?
They're locks. Yep, those 4 are locks. So we're at 10 now, right? So it'll be Hurtubise or
get Fairchild out of here.
I agree.
It won't be him. It'll be God. It could be done because of his speed.
Give me Benson.
It could be him if he shows up, but don't strike out every other appearance. Please. And he's still he's still a thoroughbred, and I want him to do well.
He could be the thumper that you didn't sign, that you didn't trade for. That he's got, out of anybody on this roster, I think he's got the most capability of being that guy for your corner outfielder that you didn't trade for, that you didn't sign in the offseason. He's the one that could step into that role.
As long as he makes contact.
Well, you brought jokes tonight, George. You brought jokes tonight.
He just needs to make contact, man. But yeah, I would say it'll be down between, that kettle you had at the end. They'll
Fairchild, Benson.
Yeah. And there's, they'll stash some guys at Louisville, and some of it may come down to who's got, who they can just option back and who they got at dangle. But I don't know that that'll matter with Tito. I think he's going to go merit-based all the way.
Well, and he has no allegiance to any of these guys. None of these guys are his guys. He didn't make a move to bring in these guys or in on those conversations. So it is what it is.
And it's a clean slate as well. It should be.
Cut ties. See you later. So we'll see what happens. I'm very hopeful it ends up being Benson. I believe in that dude.
I can tell. I can
I
tell.
do.
Well, hopefully you'll believe in Hunter Green and Singer as well, because they both
Singer looked good
2 days. I know.
Yeah.
I know that. I know he's fairly good, and we'll see. It's only spring training, but man, that could be a nice little boost to that rotation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we will see. We are 17 days away, I think.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So it's getting very close.
That close, it is.
Yeah. So I'm excited. Give me baseball. Can't wait.
I know. I'm excited for it too.
FC Cincinnati. I'm going to be completely honest. I have no idea what they have going on. Did they play?
They played. They beat Toronto, an impressive win. Kind of a new formation they busted out on Saturday night because they felt like it was best for them, given what players they want to save minutes on. And 2-0 win over Toronto. So 2-1 in MLS, and then they're in that tonight. They're in the Champions Cup game that they're playing down there in Mexico.
10:30 game. That's
Yep.
when it is it kickoff? I have no idea what you call the beginning of a soccer
Oh,
game.
what is it they call that? God dang it. I'm going to get lit up over this.
Drop ball?
First touch. Isn't that what it is?
Sure. You could have fooled me. I don't know.
Grow up with it, but I think they're doing a really good job. Chad popped in here. He should be very happy tonight.
The Jugs do something?
The Jugs have made it to the 9th Region Championship game. How about that? And Cooper beat Covcath. I know. I was surprised.
Hey,
Rookie
given
coach.
everything that those clowns at Cooper are putting Sully through, more power to him.
Yeah, someone
Rookie
said
coach.
something to me about that last night, and I got to find out some more info.
The principal's trying to run him out.
Man.
Guy that's he's put more guys in high major D1 than anybody in freaking 9th region history.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a coach.
Right.
Hell of a coach.
Well,
That's right, Tiger. He is.
you know what he needs to do?
But yeah. Just pack up. Look, he would be hired tomorrow.
Right.
By somebody else in the region.
Exactly.
But incredible first year for Jake at Covcath.
No doubt about it.
Made a run.
Like, he is a future star in the high school coaching ranks.
Yep, he'll do well. I think he'll do well.
He had them playing at a very, very high level at this year, and that is not Covcath's most talented team.
Right.
Like, they got a bunch of dudes that are good, but they play with great pace. They get up and down the floor. They shoot it well. They pass it well. I got to see him play Simon Kenton earlier this year. Really impressed with. It's not easy following a guy that wins as much as the Rootsats did.
Right.
And to keep that ball rolling is not an easy thing to do. So really happy for Jake. Sucks that he didn't make the finals, but go Jugs.
Go Jugs indeed. When is it? Is that next Monday night? Did they do that or Tuesday? Daggone it. I don't think I wrote that down. No, I didn't. But I know there's a little bit of time between the semifinal and the final. And then Ohio Division I, we got a bunch of teams alive in the Final Four. How about Lakota West? First time since former Bearcat Keith Greger that a school in the Lakota district has made it to the Final Four in boys basketball. So West for the first time, winning the regional. Aiken made it in Division III, Wyoming Division IV, Summit Division V, and Winton Woods lost a heartbreaker in Division II and missed out. But the Winton Woods girls made it, but the boys just missed. I think it was an overtime game too this past weekend. And then the girls, you got Princeton in Division I, Winton Woods in Division II, D. Alexander and Purcell Marion in Division III, all in the state Final Four in Ohio. So there's a lot of hoops still happening here, man.
And that D. Alexander
good year for the local high schools. When you get to this point, and Cincinnati's got 1, 2, 3, 4 teams in the Final Four, that's pretty good in hoops.
That D. Alexander, she's pretty good.
Yeah, I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 of the 7 divisions. And Division 6 and 7, Cincinnati has nobody in there, really. I mean, there may be one school in those 2 divisions or something. So you're looking at like 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the 5 main divisions played, they made it. So that's good.
That 9th region final is Tuesday.
Great.
A week from tonight.
I wish it was Monday. I could go.
Maybe we'll go and just we'll find a place to do the show live from Truzit Bank Arena.
We could. We could.
George, you got anything else?
No. I'm probably going to go have a drink. Let me look at my papers. I don't think so. I got papers.
He's looking at that bottom line on the paper. It says, go have a drink.
Yeah. Well, if you want to know something sick, this page, that's my college football 25 guys who have a future on my current roster with the Bowling Green Falcons.
I have an Excel spreadsheet, so I'm not making fun of you for
Are
any
you
of that.
serious? Oh my God.
We'll
I
talk
thought I
about that
was a
later.
nerd.
We'll talk about that later. All right, that's going to wrap it up for George in the Jungle. Thanks, as always, to Remington Tavern for sponsoring this show. They're at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have their daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 bourbon whiskey Wednesdays, bottle cap bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Check them out on Instagram at RemyTavCincy or follow them on Facebook. But for George Vogel, we thank Jeff Hobson of Bengals.com for joining us. This is George in the Jungle, wrapping it up from the Cincy Light Studios. We'll catch you next week, 9 p.m. to check out all of your Cincinnati sports.
Thank you, Aaron.